The Quran says, وَإِن كَانَ كَبُرَ عَلَيْكَ إِرَادُ. If you find their denial unbearable, فَإِنِ اسْتَطَعْتَ, then if you can, فَإِنِ اسْتَطَعْتَ, if you can, أَن تَبْتَغِيَ نَفَقًا فِي الْأَرْضِ, build a tunnel through the earth, أَوْ سُلَّمًا فِي السَّمَاءِ, or stairs to the sky, فَتَأْتِيَ بِآيَةٍ, then bring them a sign, a miracle. وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ, and Allah willed, لَجَمَعَهُمْ عَلَى الْهُدَى, He would have gathered them towards guidance. فَلَا تَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. So, Prophet, do not become among those who are overwhelmed by emotions. A jahil is not necessarily a person who is uneducated, unlettered. The same word is used for those who are overwhelmed by emotions, overcome by the emotions that they have. So the Almighty is actually very strongly telling the Prophet that it's not going to be possible for him to respond to this demand put across by these people, for him to present to them a miracle, because that's what they have asked the Prophet to do. إِنَّمَا يَسْتَجِيبُ الَّذِينَ يَسْمَعُونَ. He says, those people are going to respond positively who are really listening, genuinely listening. In other words, the Almighty is mentioning that these people who are asking you to bring forth miracles to make them believe, are actually the people who are not even listening to you properly. So the Almighty says that those people are going to respond positively who really listen carefully. While mauta, as for those who are dead, يَبْعَثُهُمُ اللَّهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. يَبْعَثُهُمُ اللَّهُ, God is going to raise them, ثُمَّ إِلَيْهِ يُرْجَعُونَ, and towards Him are they all going to return. In other words, he's saying that these people, they're dead. They are not in reality living. The real life that the Almighty has given to us humans is the life which has, enabled us to think, to understand, to take the right decisions. If there is somebody out there who's just living like an animal, his life is no life. It's not a real life that the Almighty had given to us humans to live in this world and to be able to perform uh, in a morally acceptable manner. Then we move on to verse 52, wherein there is another strong message which is actually addressed to the disbelievers who, in response to what was presented to them, instead of accepting the message of the Almighty, they started demanding from the Prophet that the people who have believed in him should first be removed from his company, and then they will possibly join him and listen to his message and accept it. In other words, what they were saying was that these people who are his companions, most of whom were poor people, we can't listen to you. We can't come close to you in your company so long as these people are around you. So you first better remove them, and then we'll come closer and try to find out what exactly you are saying. So the Almighty said to the Prophet that, look here, La wala tatrudil lazina yad'una rabbahum bil ghadati wal ashi. Do not ask those people to go away who are asking their Lord for help, who are praying to their Lord in the mornings and evenings. Yuriduna wajha. They are inclining towards Him, seeking His pleasure. Ma alayka min hisabihim min shay'in. You do not have, O Prophet, any responsibility regarding their performance, their accountability. وَمَا مِنْ حِسَابِكَ عَلَيْهِمْ. Nor is your performance, your accountability, any of the obligations, responsibility of theirs, min shay'in at all. فَتُطْرُدَهُمْ. That's not the case. So you have no reason to cause such people to move away from you. فَتَكُونَ مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. If that's what you're going to do, you're going to be amongst the unjust people. That is, you do not need to respond to the expectation of the kuffar disbelievers who are demanding that your companions should be taken away, should be dispersed from coming close to you, from your presence. And a way should be paved for the kuffar to come close to you. It's not your responsibility of what they're demanding. So you keep doing what you're doing. And if you're going to do what they're demanding from you, then it's going to cause you to become amongst those who are unjust and unfair. وَكَذَلِكَ فَتَنَّا بَعْضَهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ. This is happening because we have tested some of them with others. That is, some people are rich, some are poor, some are strong, some are weak. It's a test of life. And the Almighty is testing people and finding out who are the ones whose behavior approach is correct, who are the ones who respect humans for, for who they are as humans. They do not look at the status of people. They respect human beings. And the dignity of humanity is what is important for them. So this is a test. لِيَقُولُوا أَهَؤُلَاءِ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ مِنْ بَيْنِنَا. So this test has resulted in them saying that, are these people the ones whom God has preferred over us? That is, are you claiming, this is what the kuffar disbelievers used to say, are you claiming that these poor people who've come around you and become your companions, they have been preferred by the Almighty over us? So obviously it was their arrogance that caused them to feel that because they are rich, strong, and they have influence over the society, they have to be the Almighty's favorites. And if there are others, poor people, slaves, not quite as strong politically and financially, they they should not be the ones whom God likes. The Almighty says that Alaysallahu bi'alama bishakirin. Does God not know who are the ones who are truly grateful? Now, this part of the verse is actually clarifying that God chooses for his message, chooses people to be inclined towards his message, those who are thankful. So these people are claiming that they are the ones who deserve to be to be those who should accept the message of the Almighty, who should come close to his messenger. Because they are rich, because they have status in the society higher than other people, they should get this privilege. The philosophy that they would mention is, which was that there at the back of their minds, that okay, we believe that this world has been created by God. Okay, he is the one who is taking decisions. So is it not that he has decided in our favor the status of life, the the resources, uh, wealth, etc. So if we are performing better in this life, it's because God has chosen it for us. So why is it that when it comes to his message, you are claiming that those who have not been able to perform well in life, they have been given preference? So this mindset, this incorrect understanding is what caused them to become arrogant. And the Almighty is responding by saying that, does God not know better who are the grateful people? In other words, it's gratefulness in a human that causes him to get closer to the message of the Almighty. He or she is the one who deserves to be inclined to believe in and accept God's message. And as for those who are arrogant and are ungrateful, they don't deserve that privilege. وَإِذَا جَاءَكَ, and the Almighty is telling the Prophet, وَإِذَا جَاءَكَ الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِآيَاتِنَا, when those people who believe in our verses, they come to you, O Prophet, فَقُلْ سَلَامٌ عَلَيْكُمْ, tell them, be peace upon you. كَتَبَ رَبُّكُمْ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ الرَّحْمَةِ, your Lord has written it upon himself to be merciful. Exactly the same statement as we saw in verse 12. He has made binding upon himself that he's going to be merciful. أَنَّهُ مَنْ عَمِلَ مِنْكُمْ سُوءًا بِجَهَالَةٍ, and the result, consequence of him being merciful is that when somebody commits a wrong, overwhelmed by emotions, ثُمَّ تَابَ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ, and then he repents after that, وَأَصْلَحَ, and reforms himself, فَأَنَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ, then he is most certainly forgiving and merciful. So that is also a passage that I thought was important to be presented. Now I move on to another important passage of this surah, which is verse 68 and 69. In this passage, the Almighty is telling us about the strategy that a believer should adopt when he finds that people are making fun of God's message. What should be our reaction? How should we conduct ourselves in such a situation? The Quran says, وَإِذَا رَأَيْتَ الَّذِينَ يَخُوضُونَ فِي آيَاتِنَا, when you see people getting indulged in making fun of our signs, of our verses, talking about them in a way that they are finding faults in it, ridiculing it, فَأَعْرِضْ عَنْهُمْ, ignore them. حَتَّى يَخُوضُوا فِي حَدِيثٍ غَيْرِهِ, ignore them until such time that they start discussing something else. That is, ignore them and leave them. Don't be a part of a discussion, a company where God's verses are being ridiculed. وَإِمَّا يُنْسِيَنَّكَ الشَّيْطَانِ, and if Satan makes you forget, that is, you just forget the fact that God's verses are being made fun of, فَلَا تَقُدْ بَعْدَ الذِّكْرَ, then don't sit with them after you have been reminded. Don't sit مَعَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ, with those people who are unjust and unfair. وَمَا عَلَى الَّذِينَ يَتَّقُونَ مِنْ حِسَابِهِ, those people who are conscious of the presence of the Almighty, who are pious, good people, it's not their responsibility regarding as to what these people are doing, min shay'in at all. Walakin zikra la'allahum yattaqun. The only obligation that they have is that they remind. They remind them so that you never know, some of them may actually become conscious of the Almighty's presence. When we move on to the passage which is talking about Ibrahim alayhi salam. Now, Abraham, was the prophet about whom it wasn't that the people of the book were always claiming that he was their forefather, the great leader whom the Almighty chose, and from him proceeded the children of Israel. So they would take pride in claiming that they are the progeny of Abraham. But likewise were the children of Ismail, who also took pride in claiming that their great grandfather, Abraham, was the one that they also have proceeded from, and they believe in what he stood for. So the Almighty has mentioned the example reference of Ibrahim in quite a few passages, uh, particularly to the children of Ismail, the people of Mecca, the polytheists, telling them that while Ibrahim stood for unity and oneness of God, you have chosen to go for a religious approach, which is completely the otherwise. In this passage, what we find is a very interesting, wise, and effective way of preaching the message of the Almighty that was adopted by Ibrahim. The, the, the people that he was addressing, the people of his nation, they were not the kind of people who would listen to a message different from their understanding with an open mind. They would debate in a way that would never allow the other person to let them know what is the right view, what are the arguments of it. They were stubborn, they were uncultured, impolite, and therefore there had to be a way adopted that would, on the one hand, deliver the message to them, but on the other, not invite their uncultured, emotionally charged reaction. That would obviously be most certainly was needed to be avoided and not invited. So the Almighty mentions that وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ لِأَبِيهِ. Recall the occasion when Ibrahim said to his father Azar, أَتَتَّخِذُ أَصْنَامًا آلِهَةً. Do you make these statues idols, gods, deities? إِنِّي أَرَاكَ وَقَوْمَكَ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. I see you and your nation in gross error, misguidance. وَكَذَلِكَ نُرِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ مَلَكُوتَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. And that is how we continue to show Ibrahim Malakuta Samawati wal Ardh, the kingdom of the heavens and the earth. The Almighty is referring to the fact that he showed Ibrahim the vast kingdom of his, the heavens and the earth, the different parts of his universe that he wanted his servant Ibrahim to see in particular. What exactly was the nature of this experience, we don't know. Quite often, such spiritual experiences are shown to prophets in their dreams. The dreams of the prophets are always true. they actually show reality. Could be anything, but the Almighty says that that's how uh, He prepared Ibrahim for this all important task that he was to undertake, to let his nation know uh, the message of unity of God, the reality of this life, its nature of being a trial. So he showed him the kingdom of the heavens and the earth so that he could let other people know about it. وَلِيَكُونَ مِنَ الْمُوقِنِينَ, and so that he should become amongst those who really are convinced, who are convinced about the reality that this world has been created by the Almighty. He's the one who is running the show, and everything is in his control. We humans are expected to believe in these realities that lie in the domain of existence that is unseen. But when it comes to the prophets, they are expected to have a belief which is so firm, so deep, so clear that they can share this conviction with others. So that is what God enabled Ibrahim to go through. فَلَمَّا جَنَّ عَلَيْهِ اللَّيْلُ, when he was covered with the night, the darkness of the night, رَأَى كَوْكَبًا, he saw a star. قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي, he said, this is my Lord. فَلَمَّا أَفَلَ, when it disappeared, قَالَ لَا أُحِبُّ الْعَافِلِينَ, he said, I don't like those that disappear. I don't like those for me to take them as my gods, my deities, those who disappear. Now, it's quite often that this verse and the subsequent verses have been mentioned by people to show, and they have interpreted these verses to conclude that Ibrahim alayhi salam, God forbid, to begin with, also believed in many gods. That's not true. These verses are actually informing us that Ibrahim was given to deliver the message of the Almighty to people who were very rigid, with whom talking about the truth was not possible directly. So this was a very wise way, a very effective way of putting across the message to such people. It was adopted, and the Almighty helped Ibrahim to learn this method. So he went to a place where there were some people belonging to his own nation who were looking at a star and meditating, worshipping the star. Now, in the midst of them, Ibrahim made this remark that was audible enough for them, loud enough for them to be audible. And but he didn't speak to anyone, so nobody could debate with him, complain to him about what he was saying. He said to himself that this is my Lord. That is telling them that okay, that's what your understanding is. But then when it disappeared, he said, I don't like those who disappear for making them as my deities. فَلَمَّا رَأَى الْقَمَرَ, likewise when he saw the moon, بازغا, shining, قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي, he said, this is my Lord. فَلَمَّا أَفَلَ, but then when it disappeared, قَالَ, he said, لَإِن لَمْ يَهْدِنِي, had my Yahdini Rabbi, had my Lord not guided me, لَأَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الضَّالِّينَ, I would have become a part of the misguided people. Now, here, his tone and his message gets a bit more clear and firm. Don't forget, he's talking to himself. He's not, he's not addressing them. But obviously, the idea is that they are the ones who should learn about it. فَلَمَّا رَأَى الشَّمْسَ بَازِغَةً. And then when he saw the he saw the sun shining brightly. قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي. He said, this is my Lord. هَذَا أَكْبَر. This is the biggest of them all. فَلَمَّا أَفَلَتْ. But then when it also descended, disappeared. قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ. He said, oh my people, إِنِّي بَرِيءٌ مِّمَّا تُشْرِكُونَ. I have nothing to do with. I disassociate myself from those you are ascribing as partners of the Almighty. Inni wajjahtu wajhiya lillazi fatara as-samawati wal ard. I have faced, I have, my direction of my face is towards the one who has created the heavens and the earth. I have decided to only focus my attention for the purpose of worship towards the one who is the creator of the heavens and the earth. Hanifan, and I'll be completely focused. Wama ana min al-mushrikeen, and I'm not amongst those who are mushrik polytheists. He clarified that he's not a polytheist, and he never was. It was only a way that he adopted, and we know from the later part of the surah that it was actually meant to only convey the message to his nation in a very wise and intelligent manner. Otherwise, obviously, there was no chance that the great prophet of the Almighty ever felt that shirk, describing partners in polytheism, has anything to do with the truth. I'll probably spend another session to talk about some of the other passages of this surah.